Yo, what's up NBA fans? It's Mike here. There have been some really big signings over the last few weeks. Giannis is obviously the main one. He signed his Supermax extension with the Bucks. He's locked down for 5 years. Paul George re-signed with the Clippers. LeBron and AD both re-signed with the Lakers. A lot of young guys like Jason Tatum and Bam Adebayo, they've signed extensions with their teams. Tons of signings. And while this is great for the teams who got these signings, it does call into question the upcoming 2021 free agency period next offseason, because this free agency class was originally looking to be one of the greatest in NBA history, and now it kinda looks a little trash, to be honest. Like, it really doesn't look any better than this current year's free agency class. So I want to talk about it. I want to talk about the free agents who are still available, at least as of right now. How good is this class really going to be, and how is this going to affect the teams next year? Specifically, the teams who have been saving up money in hopes of getting players like Giannis, LeBron probably wasn't going to leave. Giannis, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, who is still available, but we'll get to him in just a moment, Anthony Davis, a lot of these guys who were predicted to be big free agents next year, and now they're just not. That's what I want to talk about today. Hope you enjoyed this video. So, looking down the list of the biggest names up for free agency last year, the top 3 players, or the top 3 pay-wise players, I should say, and realistically, arguably the top 3 best players, all have player options. Those players are Chris Paul, Kawhi Leonard, and Blake Griffin. Now to start, Blake Griffin is an easy one. I can't see any way he doesn't accept his player option for $34 million. The dude has been injured, hella injured over the last couple years, super injury prone at this point, absolutely not worth anywhere close to a max contract any longer, so I would be shocked if he does not accept his player option with the Detroit Pistons, alright? Even if he has a great year this year and looks like similar to an all-star level player, I just can't see a way he turns that down, because I can't imagine anyone giving him close to $30 million when he does become a free agent. Chris Paul, similarly, older player, super injury prone, the man's making $40 million next year. I don't see a way he turns that down and goes for free agency. I think he's going to be a good fit in Phoenix, and I do not think he will have an issue staying there for a year and then seeking another, most likely final contract the year afterwards. The last one, and the biggest one by far, is Kawhi Leonard. Now, Kawhi Leonard is really looking like the cream of the crop for next year's free agency at this point. He is the only superstar left, at least in my opinion. If you think Chris Paul is still a superstar or will still be a superstar next year, I mean, that's your opinion, but I just gotta say I disagree. The dude's already 36. He's injury prone. I don't think Chris Paul's a superstar anymore, and I definitely don't think he will be next year. Kawhi Leonard is still a top 5 player in the NBA, regardless of how badly he choked in Game 7 of the playoffs last year. Alright, still a top 5 NBA player. He's only 30. I do not know if Kawhi Leonard is going to accept his player option or not, but whatever he does, I honestly fully expect him to stay with the Clippers. I gotta be honest, now that Paul George is re-signed there, Kawhi Leonard has said since the beginning, since he was on the Spurs, he wanted to be in LA. He wanted to be in his hometown of Los Angeles, California. That's where he wants to play for the rest of his career. Toronto Raptors traded for him. He won a championship in Toronto and could have very easily repeated if his pure goal was championships. But it's not. He wants to play in his hometown. He's just a strange guy. He's won 2 finals and 2 finals MVPs. At this point, I really think he cares more about being home than he does about chasing another title. Obviously, this isn't just saying Kawhi Leonard doesn't care about winning, but I think he wants to be home more than he wants to go to a team where he has a better chance to win. I really expect him to stay with the Clippers. Now, if he does leave, I'm not saying I'm going to be shocked or anything, but I would not be surprised if we see Kawhi Leonard figure out some kind of extension this season, or even if it goes till next season, he just declines his option and then accepts a bigger max contract, alright? That is what I foresee happening. So, with those 3 big guys out of the way, let's look at some of the other stars who are going to be available in this. Mike Conley, actually not a star, and he's 33. He had a very underwhelming season last year. He's going to be a free agent after this year. I don't expect him to get a massive contract like he's currently on, 30 mil, but he should get a decent one depending on how good he plays for the Jazz. Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan are both free agents next year. Kyle Lowry is in his mid-30s. DeMar DeRozan is actually already 32. I didn't even realize. Neither of these guys are super young, but now that the Raptors are going to have a max slot next year, which they were hoping to get Giannis with, I would really not be surprised if DeMar DeRozan comes back to Canada, comes back to Toronto, and continues to compete there with Kyle Lowry. I think Kyle Lowry will almost certainly re-sign to a smaller contract. You know, Toronto loves him, and he's a very good player, but the dude's just not going to be worth a max at his age. All right, you know he's going to start falling off. Probably going to start falling off this season. Same with DeMar DeRozan pretty soon. We've seen him fall off since he left the Raptors. All right, neither of them are really star-level players, or at least they certainly will not be next year, even if DeMar is certainly better than the 82nd best player in the league. You know, still not really stars. Okay, Kyle Lowry's still borderlining there, but I mean, the dude's 35 years old, and he's not LeBron James. He's going to start falling off soon. I expect the Raptors, they're not really going to be real contenders, but with Kyle Lowry, DeMar DeRozan, Siakam, OG, Fred VanVleet, alright? That is a group of players who's going to be very, very good in this NBA, alright? They're still going to be making playoff runs, even if they're not legit contenders, alright? Other guys in this, Rudy Gobert, I've already made a video on him. I really think that the Jazz should trade him to the Nets. Maybe they end up signing him to a Supermax, but I think that would be a big mistake for the Jazz, so I really do expect them to see if he can be traded. Drew Holiday is a big name. The Bucks just gave up a ton to get Drew Holiday, so I would be shocked if he does not re-sign with the Bucks for a decent contract. He is 31, but that's really not that old these days, so I expect him to get a pretty decent contract with the Milwaukee Bucks. LaMarcus Aldridge, still a very good player. Dude is honestly like a borderline Hall of Fame player, but he is 36 years old. He's probably not going to get the biggest contract. He's going to be like a very good backup big somewhere, or an average starter, but the dude's certainly exiting his star days. Andre Drummond, who knows what the heck his ceiling really is these days, his value. I could see some team giving him 20, even 20 is a stretch. I could see some team pretty easily giving him 17, 18 million a season. I could also see a world where nobody really wants him or needs him, and he gets a $10 million contract somewhere, which would be a pretty sad fall off for Andre Drummond, but that's just the state that the current NBA is in. They just don't need centers with his talent. Now, the most interesting free agent, in my opinion, for 2021, and the guy who I think is going to be the main one people are pursuing, Victor Oladipo. His contract is up with Indiana at the end of this season. He's such a weird player because he's been injury-riddled, alright? He's had quite a few injuries. He had one fantastic All-Star season where he was maybe not a superstar, but I honestly thought he was probably the second or third best shooting guard in his All-Star season. Alright, he was fantastic in 2018, and then he got hurt. But he was a dude who could do it on both ends, alright? He was a great offensive and defensive player. He'd lock down your best guy. Meanwhile, he could shoot. He had a little bit of playmaking ability, great shot creator. He was kind of like a little bit of a smaller, lesser Paul George. You look at Paul George's MVP season, he was like a poor man's Paul George. In my opinion, that's what I see Oladipo as. His contract's really going to depend on what he can do this year. Now, maybe he stays with Indiana, but I just don't know. I think a very interesting location for Victor Oladipo, however, would be the Dallas Mavericks. If he has a great season this year, Victor Oladipo could be up for a max contract, and the Dallas Mavericks might be the team to give it to him because they are going to have max space, and with no Giannis to sign, and assuming Kawhi stays in LA, he is a perfect partner for Luka Doncic. I keep saying it. The Mavericks desperately need someone else to create other than Luka because he's just doing too much work on his own. Victor Oladipo is perfect. Think of this big backcourt of Luka, Josh Richardson, and Victor Oladipo. That is a fantastic backcourt. 3 guys who can create to some level, with Oladipo, assuming he is back to his star form, and Doncic being elite at it. Josh Richardson is a very good third option in that backcourt small forward group. Alright, Oladipo or Josh Richardson, either of them can play the small forward. Luka is going to make Oladipo fantastic on offense, best season he's ever had, assuming he stays healthy. Kristaps Porzingis in the post, and whoever they either have at power forward or center with them. That is a really good team around Luka Doncic. That is what they need. And while they originally, I'm sure they were hoping for Giannis, or Paul George, or AD, or someone else, someone a little bit better, Victor Oladipo is still pretty good. Now, it's all going to depend on this season. Can Victor Oladipo get back to his all-star level? Or is that just not who he is anymore? Because it's possible that that's not who he is after his injuries. Maybe he can't stay healthy. Maybe he's just not that good. Assuming he can get back to that level, I could see him getting a max or near a max contract from the Mavs. If he cannot, I really don't know. Maybe he stays in Indiana, maybe he goes somewhere else like the Heat, but I really think Victor Oladipo on the Mavs makes a ton of sense to me, and if he plays really well, that is what I would predict to happen. Now, there's one team who's kind of looking like the loser of this offseason, and that is now the Heat, because they're going to have a ton of cap space and nobody to sign now that Giannis isn't there. I would expect, like I said, I think Oladipo on the Mavs makes more sense. He and Jimmy Butler, I feel like, would get in each other's way a little bit more than he and Luka Doncic. It just makes a lot of sense to me. So what are the Heat going to do? Well, I think that because of all this offseason stuff, because Giannis has been extended and all this other stuff, I think that really pushes the I think that really pushes the Miami Heat to trade for James Harden from the Houston Rockets. And I know a lot of Heat fans don't like this, I keep hearing it from them, but I just gotta tell you, in my personal opinion, I really think trading for James Harden, centering it around Tyler Hero, and having a big 3 of Butler, Harden, and Bam, I don't see a way that team doesn't make the finals for the next 2 to 3 seasons. I really don't. That is a fantastic team, a great trio. They fit well together. Alright? And I just think knowing they're not going to get Giannis, that really pushes the Heat to make this Harden trade. Now maybe they don't, and we'll see, but it's looking more likely by the day now that Giannis has signed his extension. And look, if James Harden gets traded to Houston, I told you so. That's all I have to say. I frickin' told you so. So yeah, that is my thoughts on next year's big free agent class that is no longer actually so big. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. And keep checking out the content on my channel. Thank you for watching.